Hi, everybody. I'm Jordan Reed.
And I'm Lindsay Reed.
And with us today, welcome to Spell Bonding. And with us today is one of our oldest friends, IRL, that's internet lingo for in real life, is our best special boy, Chris Schuur. Yay!
Hello.
Are you clapping for
Thank you for having me.
Were you just clapping? Did you just get excited because you saw people were clapping, so you just decided to do a little clapping?
I figured, and I think you guys deserve some claps too. So I mean, always do.
So, Chris, true or false? You and I grew up about 200 feet away from each other.
Very true.
That is true.
Could walk in our backyards to get to each other's, and there's even a stream that we could follow at one point to get to your house.
That's right. Yeah. If for some reason walking on grass was a little bit too played out, you could just make like a really, really tiny, crappy raft and then meander your way down.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's get a few sticks together, tie it, and then just have a little raft to get to your house.
So this show, if you've watched before, anyone else, is typically someone will tell us a scary story or a weird experience. But I'm trying to think if before you get into your story, Chris, you and I went on a lot of vacations together when we were younger. And I was trying to think like if there were any weird things that happened to us on vacation, but I don't really remember any. Do you remember any?
No, that's the thing is, going back, I had a couple instances that I thought of, childhood that maybe spooky things, but never on our vacations. Like, yeah, we went to all sorts of places, East and West Coast. And yeah, thankfully not. I mean, maybe I feel like one special appearance, I thought it was Barbara Streisand or something we saw in an elevator, but that wasn't really spooky. Up in Seattle or something like that.
Who's listening to the story, I mean.
What context, yeah.
Wait, no, you're right. That was kind of weird. Maybe not scary, but weird because, yeah, it was in Seattle. We were there, and there were all these partitions set up in front of the elevator, and the Prime Minister of Russia was there. And then in the same week, Barbara Streisand was also there.
Right.
That's
quite a hot spot, in Seattle.
Who knew? That
exactly.
The Prime Minister of Russia was like, "Oh, we got to go to Seattle. Like, here they have like, I don't know, fish or something. Who cares?" So, Chris, do you want to tell us your scary story?
For sure. Yeah, definitely wasn't, intensely scary, but definitely spooky. Along the lines of, UFOs. We were, I guess back in, I couldn't exactly find the date, 2005, 2006, was off at college, kind of in the Berea, northeastern Ohio area. And it was just me and a couple friends. We were heading from college, driving over to our friend's house just to pick them up to go out for the evening. And, pretty basic, evening, just nice, dark out. You could see the stars and was quite clear. And, maybe you've noticed looking at the clouds in the sky and saying, oh, beautiful, clear night. But about 15 minutes later, we arrive at our friend's house. And, two of us stayed in the car. And the one buddy went into his friend's house to get him. And, a few moments go by. We didn't expect him to be long. And, after maybe 4 or 5 minutes, we start, maybe getting concerned or wondering what's happening. But something out of the sky kind of piques our interest. And, me and my buddy Josh were just looking up there and kind of see a star or maybe a plane. Really weren't too sure, but noticed it was moving quite slow and then stopping. And it stopped for, I would say almost 30 seconds or more and didn't go any more forward, but didn't go backward. But as we noticed and were staring at it longer, a couple minutes at this point, we were starting to notice that there were 3 different lights. From what I remember, maybe white and blue, wasn't red definitely, but 3 different lights that were moving in somewhat of a pattern, but it wasn't like a sequential pattern. And this literally went on, we think, for 5 minutes or so. And at this point, we realized, okay, we're staring at something in the sky. Where are our friends at? They're supposed to be here soon. And starting to get paranoid almost at this sense, just kind of getting a creepy feeling, looking in the sky, maybe a UFO, and now our friends are missing. And my friend Josh goes into the house to see, what's going on. And their whole house, their family, were all standing in the back of their porch staring at this same object. They were so caught up in it when our friend got in the house that they just went out back and started looking at this unidentified flying object into the sky. So we thought, maybe we were missing something, not knowing what it was. But the fact that the family inside the house were staring at the same object, and we think it was probably a good 10 minutes before the lights either seemed to fade. We can't say it moved away quickly, but it just seemed to almost disappear. But in that 10 minutes, it definitely moved forward. I thought it moved backward a little bit, but these three lights were flashing nearly the whole time, and then it just seemed to almost disappear. I did look up after you asked me about, talking about that instance, see if anyone else in Northeast Ohio, 2005, 2006, in the fall time would have seen something like that, and nothing came up. There were other UFO sightings in the Berea and North Royalton area in other years, but it was definitely something we could not explain, and know that at least not only our vehicle, but the people in the house saw it before, we even noticed it too. So it definitely was witnessed by a few people, and no one could really explain it.
That's weird.
That's super weird because like if you think about seeing something in the sky moving, typically when things move, unless they have an engine or they're interrupted somehow, trajectory, things just don't like stop and then continue. So,
Exactly.
and the fact that you said it would stop for like 30 seconds. I mean, I know like people just love throwing out numbers, but if you like sit and it's almost like they're like bragging that they know numbers, you know?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
like if you sit and think like 30 seconds is a really long time for something just to not move and then continue to move. And then even more so, 10 minutes is a long time to see this thing doing its thing.
Exactly. And yeah, that's the thing, being near the Cleveland airport, which was the opposite direction, seeing, the posts with the, red or flashing lights that are obviously still, that's what we kind of thought at first is like, okay, maybe it's just either a plane, that seemed to be stopping, or it could have been a, notification pole that had some lights on there. But yeah, it was distinctly would move for a period and then was stopped for a period. And during that stopping period, it seemed like the lights, that moved sequentially flashed. And you could definitely notice three, I would think, lights that seem to line up, the length or the distance of the ship or craft or whatever it may have been. But yeah, like you say, it definitely stopped at moments and continued moving forward or backward at one point. But, obviously, like you said, knowing numbers or time or distance in the sky, it's really hard to judge how far, it may have traveled. But, it was definitely noticeable, and, we couldn't say it was a plane or anything else.
So what were like how were the lights lined up?
For sure. Yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely in a straight line.
Ah.
I couldn't say anything more than, a stick of gum. It looked almost like, in that sense, it was, fairly thin in comparison to how long it was. But the lights, they seem to be, either bright or fairly big on the object. I mean, it did seem to kind of, what I would think, take up, a better part of the size of the structure or whatever it was.
Wow.
Yeah, the fact that the whole family saw it in the house too is really weird. It wasn't like, oh yeah, we just saw something weird, but maybe it was our imagination. It was like more than one person saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what me and my friend Josh were thought like, okay, are we just, two paranoid kids, out just thinking that we're seeing stuff in the sky and stuff like that. Or even if it was a shooting star or something different. And, maybe we thought it was a UFO, but no, the fact that, the family inside had been staring at this object, which I don't remember if they saw it before we actually arrived at the house. So it could have been up there longer, but I definitively remember looking at the clock on our car and saying, 5 minutes have passed, it's been 10 minutes now at this point before we went and got our friend. And yeah, it was a long period of time that it was in the sky.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
That's really
Yeah.
it's
cool.
very strange.
And I've always been one that really enjoyed UFOs, growing up, read about it a lot and stuff. And I've never had, any kind of other experience. But yeah, this was one of those that had no explanation, and I didn't want to like make myself believe that's what it was. But there really just is no other explanation behind it.
Yeah, and I think that's cool too. Like I don't know if I like necessarily like really believe, but then again, I like after since we started doing our show, not this one, but our podcast, we like I realized like there's a lot of stuff that just goes on, and also what harm is it doing believing? And also it's just kind of fun
Hmm.
because like
Mm-hmm.
life is also, I mean, if you think about it, unless you're like trying to think about aliens or Bigfoot, life's fairly boring. So like to like think about this stuff is just cool because also like if it's unexplained, maybe it's just unexplained and something is going on. Or also it could be, I mean, something that's almost equally as creepy or even more creepy because it seems more real if it's some
Mhm.
secretive government something. That's also
Right.
very scary.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah, that's what I, try to think logically at this point is like, okay, yeah, if it wasn't, a craft from outside of this, atmosphere, was it, another country that has, some kind of technology that, we didn't even know about or was in our airspace. And must have been last year. Me and my girlfriend were driving down Sonoma, look up in the sky and again, see something quite strange to the point where it freaked us out. And I pulled off the side of the road to start staring at it. And then I noticed other cars are staring at it. And we start talking, saying, does anyone know what it was? Luckily, we find out once we get home that it was the SpaceX. We have a launch pad somewhere over here. So it was actually one of the, craft coming back or something like that, but it was visible. So, I mean, there is technology doing some sort of things, but like you say, if we don't know about it, is it, stranger that it's from out of the space or, from a business doing something?
Yeah. I don't know what's
Right.
weirder. I would much rather it be not from Earth.
Yeah, exactly. Life is pretty
And
weird.
Yeah.
than government
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then a bunch of rich dudes
Right.
doing it. I don't trust it. If it's a bunch
Right.
of maybe even like
No.
non-wealthy aliens doing it, because I don't know how. I mean, then you're bringing in, how does money work? Is there money on other planets? What's the hierarchy? Are there jobs? So like,
Right.
so I don't know.
It does bring up a very interesting, different dilemma and thought process about what could be going on in another world.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why are they making the ships? Is it pure like the amount of times that they've been by Earth? Is it like, oh, wrong turn? Who would want to go to that place? And then they leave, or they're like, or it's kind of like how like you like if you ever get like a desire to go to White Castle or Taco Bell, it's like, you want to go do that weird gross thing, and then you're like, yeah, let's go do the weird gross thing. So maybe that's like them wanting to come to Earth. Like, you want to stop by that weird place? Like, yeah, let's go to the weird place. And then they're bringing people up in their ships and taking them home because like, you won't believe this weird thing. Look at this weird.
Oh, we're like a roadside attraction.
We're an intergalactic roadside attraction.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect.
It's true. Like if you ever come across like the interstates, across the country, there's always like those roadside attractions. So the big intergalactic spaceway, Earth is just another roadside attraction.
Yep.
Yeah, Earth is, what is it, like the Dino World around Dayton, Ohio? That one giant complex that's like south of the border or something. It's called. I forget where that is. I don't know where that
A
is.
large basket.
Yeah, that giant
Mhm.
basket.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that giant basket in Ohio?
I don't think no.
There's a gigantic basket. That's it.
Like a woven basket, like
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
in the basket.
I think it's actually the headquarters, yeah, for like Longaberger baskets or something like that. But like, I mean, it's kind of like, I understand you want your building to like look like the thing you sell, but like, it's also like, what's the whole thing? Like, people are going to drive by and go, oh, a big basket. All right. Like,
Well, what if you sell something stupid?
yeah, exactly. Like, what if you sell diapers?
What if you sell shoelaces?
Shoelaces, diapers. What if you sell rotten meat?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It
Not
makes
a good
no
roadside
sense.
attraction.
Well, I just remembered. Well, thank you for telling us your creepy UFO story, Cret.
Yeah.
Of course.
But I remember, I keep trying to think of like the weird stuff that happened to us, if anything weird did when we were on vacation. But I remember the only thing I can think of is when we were in Seattle again, that same Barbara Streisand trip, is there was this dude outside of Pike Place Market with a giant beard with an African gray parrot, and he was like making it like sit upside down in his hand, and that's all I remember.
Yeah, I do remember that too. And actually, oddly enough, I bought some lychees, and that's the first time I ever had a lychee was at that
Oh.
Seattle market too.
That's right. We just my mom gave us a bunch of these old photos. I'll have to send some to you. But there's a photo of us eating lychees, I think, for the first time
Oh.
too.
Nice. Yeah, those are kind of weird. They look like brains, little fruit brains.
They do. You know, a lot of
Uh-huh.
people sleep on the leech, but I like them.
That's a good fruit.
Now, speaking of fruit and good fruit and lychee, you also are very knowledgeable about wine. You work in the wine business. Um,
Mm.
is that like a cool fruit you could throw in? Like, I don't know what happens in the wine world. Like, if you like taste something and everyone likes to say what notes they pick up in the flavor profile, but then like someone has like a new cool one that no one else has said, and they're like, oh wow, I can't believe they said that one. Could you ever throw out like, oh, I'm getting unripe lychee? Could you do one of those?
You could for sure. Yeah, I mean, lychee you sometimes find in like a Gewürztraminer wine or even like a Riesling. So there are some lychee type flavors in wine profiles, definitely.
And I love Gewürztraminer as well. I really like
Perfect.
Gewürztraminer. Why is it that I don't like a lot of sweet white wine, but I like Gewürztraminer? You're the expert. What's wrong with me?
Well, first thing, nothing's wrong with you. That's
Okay,
perfectly
good.
fine. No, I mean, sweet wine, it definitely, you have to have a palate for it. I mean, I don't particularly drink, sweet wines at all, being from Ohio. There's definitely a lot of sweeter wines, grown in that region in New York. But yeah, Gewürztraminer, it from Germany, if it's made, it could have some residual sugar in there, but most likely it's dry, but still has a good fruitiness to it. So I think you probably like a dry, no residual sugar wine, but with some good fruit in it.
Now, okay, I have a question after Lindsay, what type of I want
Well, I have
Chris.
a question.
Okay, go
If
ahead.
we're talking about wine, I had to Google it the other day and I don't know why I didn't just text you. But there's
Yeah,
like a trend of everybody's going crazy over orange wine, but it's not actually made from oranges. And I wanted
Correct.
to try some and I didn't know where to even find it. It's like, because it doesn't say orange wine on it. It's like you have to know brands.
yeah, they don't make it good. They
You
they
know?
they they don't make it easy for dumb people like us to find the orange wine.
Uh-uh.
Well, it should have a little bit of maybe an orange color. Truthfully, yeah, it is a new thing. I've only had it, once a couple years ago. It's kind of a, specialty, niche thing that a winery could make, and there is one here in Sonoma that does it. I don't remember exactly what grapes that they generally make it with, but I believe it does have an orangish color to it. But it is, yeah, from grapes. But no, that's one I'm gonna have to Google as well. I learn something
Yeah.
new every day in the wine industry. So
What was that about? Oh, and I had one more wine question and I forget it.
We have a lot of wine questions apparently.
Yeah, so this is like this episode is like kind of about aliens and a little bit about wine. Uh, um,
I should have
oh,
brought a glass. I didn't think about it.
we're just having coffee over
Yeah,
here.
we
We're
have
not doing
coffee.
anything.
Yeah.
Water.
Hey, we have water too. We can also drink some hand sanitizer. I mean,
Mhm.
we got a lot of
Hey,
liquids.
it's good to be stocked up on all this stuff.
Mhm.
Thank you, Chris. Um, well,
You
I
drinking
think
any Willamette Valley Pinot?
we have, yes.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
thought you liked some of that.
Yeah. I remember, I kind of don't care that this episode has kind of turned into wine talk with our with one of our best buddies. But I remember when you came out to Oregon when you were on a big road trip. Would you also say that road trip was like you finding yourself, or was that like a
Oh,
different?
100%.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
and you
great.
definitely, yeah, you guided me in that for sure. I mean, I don't know if, yeah, we talked much after the fact, but no, getting up to Portland and talking to you before I even drove there, yeah, it was definitely a, yeah, I was looking, I think, for something, whether it be personally or professionally, and it was definitely, a fun adventure. But yeah, it was definitely a discovery, and 5, 6 months on the road, living out of the car and in your brother's house and such,
That's
yeah, made it
right.
work.
That's right. But I remember I knew you were serious about wine when like typically because you and I were like 23 at the time. Typically when two 23 dudes hang out, I think you think like, what are you going to eat? Chicken wings and Pabst Blue Ribbon. But I remember you and I, we got two bottles. We got a Willamette Pinot and we got a white. And then we got a bunch of cured meat and all this stuff. And I was like, I feel really good about being 23 with Chris right now. I feel really cool.
We aged quickly. Yeah, we definitely indulged in some of the things younger than other years. But yeah, the wine was always something good to enjoy with some food there.
I agree. That was really fun. Do you have any other wine zingers for Critter?
No, I just remember we used to all skateboard together.
We did all skateboard together growing up. Yeah, that was all
This
really
is something
fun.
I was meaning to ask you guys. The trip kind of got postponed because of the current situation, but was heading to France for the wine region out there, and I didn't realize the catacombs about that being a place where they, buried or stored, tons and tons of bodies and bones, and
Yeah.
just the amount of remains that live there. I wonder how haunted, or if there's any spirits that happen to live around or within that place, because apparently you can tour it. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable, but yeah, it'd be very interesting to hear about.
I would love to check it out. I also don't, I have to say two things. One is that I like how you said that they store both bodies and bones down there because they remove them and they store them separately. and
They ate them.
they age the bones. And
Yeah,
then
maybe there's young, fresh bodies.
there could be some young, fresh bodies, I guess, sure. And then two is the reason why a lot of wine from France is so good is because I would think that not only is there like all the dust and the mildew all over the bottles down there, which cool look, but also
Mhm.
like I would think it's impossible if there are, well, because there for sure are spirits down there. If they're walking down there, their bodies go through everything. So like you have a ghost body probably walking through all those bottles of wine.
Yeah,
That's probably why a lot of French wine is so good
that makes sense.
because you
Yeah.
have person vapor walking through it. So
Well,
Yeah, a lot of love.
you did talk about the ghost wine that's over in France somewhere.
in Italy,
Yeah, they like plant the grapes just in that
Right.
area because of the dead body
that's right.
soil.
What is it, Pavalia Island or something like that?
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I tried so hard to find like where those grapes go into certain bottles. I really wanted to find a bottle, and yeah, they still make it every year, but it's not like a commercial production type of wine. But yeah, it'd be really interesting. There is a lot of folklore and stuff I read about that area.
And this, okay, so we were just talking about tasting notes.
Mhm.
When you go to France and you're drinking wine in and around Paris or by the catacombs, one flavor note you could pick out, you could like everyone saying like, oh, I'm tasting like, I don't know, black truffle, or I'm tasting, I don't know, Skechers sneaker or something. You could say like, person, because you'd be like, what do you mean? Be like, well, person vapor, sorry. And then you could drink it.
That will definitely be something I'll throw out there, and there's no wrong answer, so they'd have to listen to that.
What would you do if you were like, I don't know if this is part of your job, but if you were guiding a tasting and like, you have like the little glasses and you're telling people now you're going to be you're going to be getting notes of freshly opened tennis ball, whatever, you're going to be getting notes of this and that. And then if you're also like, you're also going to get notes of human vapor. I wonder if they would go, are you sure?
They probably couldn't argue it, but yeah, probably not a good selling point. One of my favorite, which maybe not be appropriate, I'll have to cut it out. That the guy who taught me, out here, we were tasting wine, and yeah, in wine you can get ridiculous smells, and really what you smell is what you say, and it's not wrong. And he's swirling around the glass, smells it, and just puts it down on the table and says, "Bloody fecal." And yes, obviously not a pleasant smell, but you go and you smell in there, and yeah, it's iron rich and a little bit poopy, so that can happen.
I would love to like somehow sneak my way into like some really bougie wine tasting event, like some like where like there are people there where you're like, can you believe they're here? And like go around and be like, poopy.
The polite word is is barnyard, but yeah, barnyard's not much better than poopy.
No, it's not, because with barnyard in and of itself is a very complex thing to dissect if you're talking about like scent or flavor profiles, because spoiler, if you're smelling, you're tasting. So if you've ever been to a farm and you're like, smells really farmy, you're tasting the farm as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow.
Not ideal.
No, it's not ideal. Going to farms in general, not the best. Cute animals, but you leave taste in them even if you don't want to.
All right. Well, that's the thing. Being in the farm country here, they always fertilize, and we call it the Sonoma aroma once it starts to smell like fertilizer throughout here. So, yeah.
Imagine the first person who coined that phrase. I bet you they were like, yes, got it. Yeah.
T-shirts everywhere, Sonoma aroma. They definitely capitalized on it.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I think before we just start talking about anything else, I think we need to stop.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, thanks for talking to us about aliens and also about poop and wine.
You get the full array.
Yeah, we sure do. All right, Critter, you be safe out there.
Likewise, you guys too. Thank you.
Bye.